There is absolutely no basis at all for thinking the world is flat.
25,000 miles in circumference, there must exist a curvature drop of 8 inches times the mile when you square the mile. 1 mile means there should be an 8-inch curvature drop. 2 miles, 2 times 2 times 8 is 32. That's 32-inch drop. 3 miles would be a 72-inch drop. And this would exponentially continue. Here's the longest bridge in the world, the Danyang Kongchon Grand Bridge in China, 102.4 miles long. There should exist nearly 7,000 feet of curvature drop in that bridge.
Nobody in human history, as far as I know, has thought the world was flat.
And something else I want to clear up is flat Earth is not a new phenomenon at all. But we're talking about the Sumerians, the Chaldeans, the Hebrews, the Egyptians, the Chinese. So this is not some kind of new psyop on.
The Greeks measured the radius of the Earth.
The same phenomenon Eratosthenes measured could be explained by a flat Earth if the sun were only a few thousand miles away and 32 miles across.
I cannot conceive of a reason why anybody would think that the world is flat.
You have been taught from the earliest ages that you live on a spinning ball, that NASA has sent men to the moon, and you are the result of a Big Bang explosion which created everything out of nothing. Yet nothing could be farther from the truth.
There are interesting bits of physics that tell you that you live on a spinning planet. One of them is called the Coriolis force, which is the force that's responsible for causing storm systems to rotate on the planet. So when you see those beautiful pictures of storms spinning around and rotating, the reason for that is that we live on a spinning planet. But there's some nice physics in there actually, if you want to dig more deeply.
They tell me I live on a spinning blue ball, off of which somehow I don't seem to fall. If I'm flying through space at incredible pace, why don't I have to hold on? I think it's a lie, I can tell you just why. The reasons are many and plain. If you think there's a ball off of which you don't fall, I'm afraid you're quite clearly insane.
For thousands of years the same stars do appear, the very same place in the sky. Were we hurling through space, this could not be the case. We would see a new sky every night.
Putting all that aside, the theoretical stuff, the very simple fact that we've taken pictures of it, you see, I'm lost for words.
It is photoshopped, but it has to be.
It's all fraud. It's all fake. Pretty much everything NASA puts out is fraudulent. There are no images of Earth from space. Put an end to this topic once and for all. Turn the Hubble round and show us Earth in real time. But they will not do it. They can't do it. It can't. It doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist.
It's probably the most nonsensical suggestion that a thinking human being could possibly make. It is drivel.
Of course, you can measure curvature if it actually existed. It's been tested over and over again and found to have no curvature whatsoever.
You've just been lied to and shown pictures, and you believe those. Science, in fact, shows that the Earth is flat and motionless.
It's a great question. Can we populate Mars? And if so, how would we do it? The answer is absolutely yes.
They stole your mind. They stole my mind.
You've been fed a false system. You've been shown CGI images with a ball Earth with a horizon that curves.
We've discovered through space missions over the last few decades that there are vast amounts of water on Mars. There are minerals on Mars, very similar to the minerals you find on Earth. So essentially Mars has everything you need to build and sustain civilization, to allow settlers to colonize the planet. So there are plans now, real plans, to colonize Mars, to get people to Mars and begin colonization. I think we're going to go there. We're going to go there within a decade or two, and everything you need to survive exists on the planet.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
It's a good question about whether there could be other universes in which time runs in a different way, a different direction. The first thing to say is there can be other universes. In some sense it depends how you define the word universe. Theoretically there could be other sort of bubble universes like ours, where the laws of nature that you see in those universes are different. So that's a possibility. Now, as to time, Stephen Hawking once said, in A Brief History of Time actually, said that he thought that if the universe recollapsed, then the arrow of time might be reversed.
Everything in the sky revolves around us, just as it appears if you look up and use your own eyes, your own senses. The vanishing point of perspective from your point of view, which is what the horizon line is. It is not the curvature of the Earth, as you've been taught.
And time might run backwards. He then corrected it and said no, he doesn't think that anymore. The honest truth is that we don't have a very good understanding of time. So exactly what time is, how it behaves. We have understanding in different frameworks. So Einstein says that it's a dimension, a bit like space, and talks about a thing called space-time. In quantum theory, our theory of the subatomic world, we have maybe a different picture. So the honest answer is we don't fully understand yet precisely what time is, and it's one for the future. Great question. How big is the universe? Is it infinite or not? The answer is we don't know.
The internet, just the moon in general. We've got the craters on the moon and they're all round because they tell us it's meteors and asteroids that created these. There's no impact trails, so they all must have hit straight on at 90 degrees. And the other problem is we always have the same side of the moon facing us, so did they all come from Earth? Something else to ponder as well. There are no real shots of real satellites in space. If they've got all these cameras on all the satellites, why don't they take pictures of each other? Prove to us. Shut us up. One of the big arguments for a ball Earth is that ships disappear over the horizon. Because if we're on a ball and there's a curve that way and the ships are disappearing that way, then we should see a curve that way as well. And not just across the Z-axis, but across the X-axis as well. Because it should be even. We should see it both ways. So sometimes they can be seen, sometimes they can't. It's not because they disappear behind the curve of the Earth. The way our eyes work has got a lot to do with how things disappear in the distance. This is what we see every time you look out, a flat horizon. A lot of people will maintain, I've seen the curve from an airplane. Airplanes fly at 37,000 feet, around 7 miles up. If you've seen the curve from 7 miles up, how did this V2 rocket in 1946 not see the curve from 65 miles up?
What we can say is there's such a thing as the observable universe, which is how much of the universe can we see from the Earth. So think about looking into the sky, let's say the Andromeda Galaxy, which is the nearest galaxy to the Milky Way. It's just over 2 million light years away. That means that light takes 2 million years to travel from that galaxy to our eyes, which means that we see it as it was 2 million years in the past.
Yeah, NASA are liars. Yeah, they can fool us with a telescope, but they can't fool science, can they? There's a scientific proofs, isn't there? In fact, you'll find most of the scientific proofs all assume previously that the Earth is there, or it is spinning, etc., etc. So they have to start with that assumption and then they can prove it. But without starting with that assumption, you can't. Again, we go to school and they say the sun's 93 million miles away. Everybody knows that figure. But that has changed ridiculously since Copernicus first came up with this theory. Not only that, they also used to think that the sun was fixed in the centre. Herschel then said, no, the sun's moving as well. It's not like this science is settled or anything. It changes all the time. They say the moon causes the tides. Gravity's supposed to be 6th strength on the moon. But you're telling me from 240,000 miles away, that affects the tides, but the spinning of the Earth doesn't. Things weigh exactly the same at the equator as they do in Britain or the North Pole.
Now, the universe is 13.8 billion years old, so that means that we could only ever hope to see light from something that is close enough that the light has been able to get to us in 13.8 billion years. And that thing, the furthest we can see, is called the cosmic microwave background radiation. So it's the glow, it's actually the afterglow of the Big Bang itself that we can see if we look far enough out into space and therefore far enough back in time.
All the atmosphere is spinning along with the Earth. That's why we can't feel it, that's how, you know, planes can still fly and everything else. But they want us to believe that the atmosphere is basically acts like one big solid directly attached to the Earth. That's the only way that you wouldn't feel it. But the atmosphere is gas, it's air. They say because of friction, that's what gets the air going. You can't get a solid just by friction to get a gas to rotate along with it. And this is nonsense. It doesn't work. It doesn't work scientifically. There are no experiments that prove the motion of the Earth. In fact, quite the opposite. You look up Michelson, Morley, Stanyak's turntables and Airy's failure, three of the most famous experiments in the 19th century, and they all basically prove that we're completely and utterly motionless. That's why they had to bring Einstein out in 1905. They call them theories of relativity.
So you'd ask the question, how big is that bit now? So the universe has been stretching and expanding over all that time during which the light has been journeying across it. So if you say, where's that point now that emitted that light that's just reaching my eye now from the beginning of time, from the Big Bang? It's about 42 billion light years away or something like that, just over. So we've got a big sphere, 90 something billion light years across, filled with 2 trillion galaxies that we can see. Is there anything beyond that? We strongly suspect so, but we can't see it. And does that go on forever? We don't know.
The globe 666 and the strong delusion. We've got the largest phallic symbol in the world in Washington, D.C., the Washington Monument, which stands at 6,666 inches tall by 666 inches wide. 666 all over the place. Looking at the spinning heliocentric globe, 666 keeps popping up. Speed of Earth's orbit, if you look it up, it's 66,600 miles an hour. It's how fast the Earth is supposedly going around the Sun. Earth's tilt, look it up, 23.4 degrees, 23.4 off of center. Well, 90 degrees, right? 90 subtract 23.4, 66.6. Curvature of the Earth, when you do the math to figure out how much the Earth is curving, 25,000 miles circumference ball, using the Pythagorean theorem, you end up with 8 inches per mile squared, which is the first mile. The curvature is 8 inches in 1 mile. 8 inches is 0.666 of a foot. 10 miles is 66.666 feet. 100 miles, 6,666.666 feet. Starting to see a pattern here. Scripture talks about there's going to be such a great deception that's going to come in the end times. Who brings the great deception? Do you know? That's right, God does. Now, I think Satan certainly capitalizes on it. Why? Well, Scripture tells us why. We'll be accompanied by the power of Satan. He will use every kind of power, including miraculous signs, lying wonders, and every type of evil to deceive those who are dying, those who refuse to love the truth that would save them. For this reason, God will send them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie. Then all who have not believed the truth, but have taken pleasure in unrighteousness, will be condemned. He sends the delusion because people would rather live in lawlessness. Now, I think that he gives us a pass when we do things in ignorance. Sorry, you guys attended this seminar, you're not in ignorance anymore.
Why I'm living too. Say what's wrong with me? Shit, what's wrong with you? Cause me, I'm feeling good. Me, I'm in my zone. I look up in the sky. I know this can't be home. And I know I ain't alone. They try to take you home. They try to sway the weak. And they try to break strong. But I'm not a quitter. God's child, not God's dinner. On God, I'm Godzilla. Try to plot to make the plot thicker. See, the middle class got a lot slimmer, and the upper class got a lot richer. They wanna revolt, they want you to riot, they want you to try it. They wanna provoke us to keep us divided, but the people are no longer quiet. They say, Bob, they gon' take you out if you keep rhyming this way. I say, fuck it, we all gon' die anyway.